Coronavirus and crime, there is a link. A New Jersey man has been charged with making terrorist threats after allegedly coughing on an employee at the grocery store Wegmans. He claims he has the coronavirus. He faces up to 5.5 years in prison if he is convicted on that and a related harassment charge. The FBI reporting in a memo obtained by ABC News that racist extremist groups are encouraging members to spread the virus through bodily fluids and personal interaction. Fox News senior judicial analyst Andrew Napolitano, host of the Liberty File on Fox Nation, is here. Judge, wonderful to see you.
Likewise,
thank you very much for the time. So, I mean, I'm just assuming that these people are mentally disturbed because no person would do that under ordinary circumstances. But from a legal point of view, first case, the New Jersey case, person breathing on a Wegmans employee saying he has the coronavirus. What happens to him next?
Well, this caused quite a disturbance in a Wegmans store down on the New Jersey shore. It even got to the attention of the governor, who, though not a lawyer, is very concerned for these type of outbreaks and ordered the prosecutors to charge him with the strongest possible offense they could.
So he wants to send a message.
Correct. So you are correct when you say he's exposed to 5 years. If this had been simple assault, the equivalent of a sneeze or a cough or a slap in the face where the skin wasn't broken and no bones were broken, you're talking about maximum of 30 days and without any prior conviction, no jail time at all. So it's apples and oranges here. The question is this really a terroristic threat, and will the courts accept it? So there's two definitions we have to look at. One is if you intentionally distribute a biological agent to the public at large, intending to harm them, that is part of the statute, that is part of the behavior that the anti-terror statutes prohibit. But the second part of the statute is this. It requires 2 or more acts of violence, and your purpose must be to change the foreign policy of the United States. So if some extremist groups are doing this because they do want to bring down the government, and they do want to change the foreign policy of the United States, they would fit neatly right within the statute. This crackpot yesterday, I don't think so. I think it's an overreach. But in fairness to the governor, it sends the message he wants to send. Yeah. You can't do this in public and expect a normal response from your victims.
Judge, I want to ask you about something that I've just been reading about, which is that there are many prisoners who are having their attorneys basically try to get their sentences reduced or just somehow work within the system to get out of prison because they say they are high risk for the coronavirus. We know prisons typically are crowded. Have you seen anything in that context that strikes you as logical and fair?
Well, some of it is logical and fair because we do have overcrowding in prisons, and there are people who are there who haven't committed any violent crime and are no harm to everyone or to anyone once released. But not everybody is in that category because the courts, as we speak, Deidre, are not sitting. Meaning, if defense counsel and the prosecutor agree that prisoner Jones, I'm just making the name up as a hypothetical, should be released, and they send a document to the judge doesn't know prisoner Jones from a hole in the wall. She or he may just release that person, and it might be a mistake. In the real world, there would be a hearing to assess the danger of the person to the public once released. Those hearings are not taking place. Okay. So what I'm saying is these are administrative releases. Yes, judges are approving them, but they lack all the tools needed to make sure that only those who are not a danger are being released. And I'm fearful that those who are dangerous to the innocent people in society are now on the streets.
All right, Judge, thank you.
You're welcome.
Glad to have you. Judge Andrew Napolitano.